Elon, do you want to see Democrats here?
This is a very productive meetings with Republicans from the Senate and the House. We're in the early process of this, but stay tuned for more to come.
Well, the co-heads of the Department of Government Efficiency, Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, meeting with Republican lawmakers on Capitol Hill yesterday. You saw them all gathering there, Musk calling on Democrats to get involved, while Republican lawmakers are voting to gut the fish, quote unquote. Iowa Senator Joni Ernst already getting started. She released a 60-page report revealing that federal workers abused telework and locality pay to fleece taxpayers out of billions of dollars, said the senator. It finds only 6% of federal workers show up in person on a full-time basis. 90% of federal employees telework. 33% of workers are entirely remote. Up to 68% of workers receive incorrect pay, with some living more than 2,000 miles from their office. Elon Musk posted this on X. If you exclude security guards and maintenance personnel, the number of government workers who actually show up in person and do 40 hours of a work week is closer to 1%. Says Elon. Joining me now is Oklahoma Congressman Kevin Hearn. He's the chairman of the Republican Study Committee and a member of the House Ways and Means Committee. He's also the House Republican Policy Committee chair-elect. Congressman, good to see you. Thank you so much for being here. You met with Musk and Vivek yesterday. Tell us about the meeting. What did you learn? Give us your takeaways.
Well, I think it's like any leader should do. You should listen. I think that's what you saw both of them doing. Obviously, both very prominent business people. Having spent 35 years in business myself before coming to Congress, the one thing you want to do is have the most efficient business you can. And if you have that, you're going to drive out all the costs that are not necessary. And we just heard the report you put forward. There are a lot of things going on in government right now that the American people don't know about. Most importantly, people not showing up.
So what do you think is a realistic number in terms of cutting out waste? I mean, is $2 trillion really the number, or what's realistic in your view?
Well, I don't know. I certainly am going to leave it to those guys, because my guess is, as a person who looks at businesses to purchase, they've looked at this and see where the efficiencies are. And so I don't think the $2 trillion number is probably too far out of reach when you consider we have a $26 trillion GDP and our budgets are a $2 trillion deficit. These numbers are all huge. And so while that sounds like a large number, it may be right in line. We'll just have to see what they come forward with.
Now, Eric, I know you're talking about this and hearing about this all the time, not only in your own personal life, but being the wife of Byron Donalds, the Florida congressman. Jump in here.
Well, yes, as a CEO and a business owner myself, we've had to wrestle with post-pandemic coming back to work in the office and the lack of productivity that, even studies have found 10 to 20% less productivity for those that are working from home. I think the American people are expecting to see changes on this. But Congressman, we heard from some of the more conservative members of the caucus yesterday that they've been trying to do these things for many years and haven't had the votes, haven't had the support from even Republicans when we've been in control. What do you think is going to change in this administration and with the DOJ to actually get these things done?
Well, I was asking my way in yesterday by a reporter, do I think this particular committee or this outside group should be a statutory committee? And I said, we have that already. It's called Congress, and we're doing a very painfully bad job in cutting expenses when you consider we're having $1 trillion a year now in interest expense on our debt. So we need somebody to look at it differently. The American people know that. I think they're going to welcome this. I mean, again, I use Elon Musk as an example across many different industries, many of which he didn't know anything about before he went in. But there's a set of business principles when you go into anything that you try to find those places where you can cut and get more efficient, because then you'll drive a better product. And a better product to the American people is, having a limited government. And you have to follow the money if you're really going to have a limited government.
Let's talk about the agenda, Congressman. Obviously, senators and insiders are telling me that Senate Majority Leader John Thune is pushing immediate legislation on the border, and then energy production, and then defense in the first 30 days of the new Congress, but not taxes. The extension of the tax cuts, the 2017 tax cuts, will be delayed until later on in the year. How are you all thinking about this? Are you getting a second reconciliation later? House Ways and Means Committee Chairman Jason Smith told reporters he wants to do tax reform first, but that's not what you're planning.
Well, I can tell you I'm very concerned that we're not going to do the tax cuts and extend those for all Americans early on. These are policies that have been in works for now since 2017. It took 31 years to get the policies changed then. We've been working on this for the last couple of years to look at this deadline that we know we have happening at the end of next year. It much is a concern, because as you start taking things off the table that you can negotiate with, like the border and energy and the military, then you start really having a problem. And we have no time to waste. We saw what the Democrats tried to do. It took them over 2 years to do 2 reconciliation packages. And that was a very problematic, and that was on spending, which is obviously much easier to do in Congress than it is to sit here and cut back things. The border is wide open. Americans know that. The president promised to fix it. Energy under our feet is probably what's going to save us as we go forward in the future. And our military, we need to be strong on that. And certainly our tax policies, again, I go back to what I said a minute ago. If you're going to have limited government, you need to have less money in Washington, D.C. And the only way you're going to be able to do that is to keep the money in the American people's pocket, regardless of party.
So is the thinking the tax cuts don't expire until the end of the year, so you all have time? Are you going to be able to do 2 reconciliation packages?
I think it's going to be very difficult, and I know what we're looking at right now is a process conversation. I know, and being a part of the leadership team, that we do want the tax cuts to be extended. I know that. I do know that we want the border to be closed and secure. I know we want our energy policy to be robust so we have national security around the world, and certainly all of us want a strong military. But right now, we've got to make sure that the tax policy is put together with that, and so I'm certain that the chairman of the Ways and Means Committee, Jason Smith, the gentleman I work with every single day on these tax policies, and the Speaker of the House, who I also work with every single day, will come together with the new Senate leader and the White House, and we'll have this resolved very quickly.
So let me get your take on some of these nominees, Congressman. Defense Secretary nominee Pete Hegseth met with more Republican senators yesterday. Alabama Senator Katie Britt, Wisconsin Senator Ron Johnson, Idaho Senator Jim Risch all said that they intend to support Hegseth's nomination. You hosted Hegseth for a meeting with the Republican Study Committee earlier this week. Tell us about that. Where is Hegseth running into walls, and do you think he's going to get confirmed?
Well, I think the walls are like any nominee. That everybody always looks at the past and to see what they did, years ago, as opposed to what they're able to do today. I remind people, and Pete said this at the luncheon on Wednesday, is that we've tried 4-star generals and we've tried attorneys, and we haven't had a lot of success. We've tried politicians. If you think about it, General Milley got us transgenders in foxholes, and Lloyd Austin, who was supposed to be a Middle East expert, and I think the last time I checked, the Middle East is on fire. So these so-called experts on the Pentagon and our military around the world have not been successful. And President Trump, as we know, is somebody that's not a politician. It's somebody that understands that we've got to do things different. We've got to be a disruptor, and I think he sees that in Pete Hegseth.
So you think he'll get confirmed? What do you think?
Well, we're all pushing. We had about 150 members at our lunch on Wednesday.
Yeah.
I had a lot of positive comments. We've only seen him on your network, but it's great to have him there.
Congressman, thank you. We'll be watching your work. Kevin Hearn joining us this morning in D.C. Thank you, sir.